work with Roger, and thank you for recording, Caroline. We think Roger's wonderful, so thanks so much for your time, Roger. By way of introduction, I wanted to just let you know, my name's Natasha Hawker. I am the founder and director of a company called Employee Matters, an employee relations company, and I'm an employee expert. I specialize in helping small to medium businesses create exceptional business performance through their employees. Think employee relations, policies, recruitment, and terminations. We're great at helping business owners and execs who have limited time, money, and let's be really honest, patience sometimes, hire great people, and just as importantly, exit those non-performers. So we're going to be spending the next 60 minutes together today, and I'm going to be focusing on how to build and just as importantly, retain a high-performance team. It is the tightest applicant market that I have seen 29 years. And that's even with the softening of late. And I wanted to start by saying the thing that I've noticed, having done this for so long, is that if you're recruiting the way you've always recruited, you've already missed the boat. It needs to change. So I'm very happy to chat to you for the next 45 minutes. My team know that. But I don't think if we're going to be really honest, that's going to give you the most value. And I want you to get optimal value from spending the time with us today. I really want to suggest that you lean in. We do have a chat box for a reason. Caroline is my trusty co-pilot. Pop your questions in, any comments that you've got. We're all here to learn. My aim out of this is it just sparks one little idea of something that you might do differently that's going to help you build and retain a high performance team. So in order to encourage you, I have a little gift or a little incentive here. I've got 2 copies of my book, From Hire to Fire and Everything in Between. One copy to the person who has the best question, as judged by you, Roger, if you're okay to do that. And the second one is for the person who's the most, I thought you'd be good at that. That way you'll be scribbling there in the background. And then I've got Caroline, who's going to judge the person who's the most interactive. So given I've got you on mic, did you want to add anything, Roger, before we get started?
Just to thank everyone for their time. I mean, everyone's really time poor. Yes. However, I think that actually is an indicator as to why we're here.
I think you're right.
82% of the people I see at the start of any conversation is they know they don't have the right people in the right seats, but we're all managing human behavior. So thanks for being here, guys. Dial into what Natasha and Caroline take us through. And yeah, I'm really interested in your questions too. I have a couple for sure.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. Thank you very much for that, Roger. So I'm really keen to understand as a starting point what industries that you're from. So just throw it into the chat box just to get those fingers moving, because what that means is I can potentially change some of the examples I wanted to share with you today specific to your industry if that's an option. Now, we have a lot to cover and I will be moving fast. So I would encourage you to take lots of notes. And if at the end of the presentation you want to get some more information or you have any questions, we're going to show you a way to do that as well. So let's crack on. So my first slide that I absolutely have to share with you from a legal perspective, everyone, is that the content that I'm sharing today is general in nature. It's related to the field of HR. It is not legal advice. I nor my team, Employee Matters, are an employment law firm. We're HR and recruitment experts. So just so we've got that one covered. So I wanted to kick off with this one. Here's what I believe, and I've been doing this an enormously long time. I actually believe too long, Roger, that exceptional HR doesn't just fix or even prevent problems from happening again. Exceptional HR is your competitive advantage. And I'll say that again, it's your competitive edge that you need to drive more profit, more growth, and the sustainability of your business today. Now, what I can say is that as a byproduct, COVID was actually good for business because guess why? People actually realized their people were absolutely key to their success. And so I think what that's meant is that HR and doing people better has actually moved up the rungs of the ladder a little bit, which I have always been very passionate about. So I want you to pop in the chat box who sees their people or their team, I don't call them staff, so people or team, as their number one asset. And just pop that in the chat box and feel free to be honest, guys. This is a safe space. If you don't think they are, that's absolutely fine too. So just pop that in the chat box and let me know whether you see your your team as your key to your success.
I'm still
is really
seeing the chat box or as disabled on my screen. Not sure that's the same for everyone else.
Oh, we are getting a few answers in.
Okay,
I'll
no
have a-
worries.
So-
Leave it with me. I'll check it out. You carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
The answer seems to be working, but not the chat.
Q&A
Yes.
working, but not the chat. Okay,
That's what
great.
I have.
All right, if we can all go to Q&A as our comment box and our question box, we'll just use it for dual purpose. So service, Joanne, thank you for that. Yeah, people don't, I think this was, somebody taught me this and I've never forgotten it. People don't forget how you make them feel. And so in Joanne's business, yes, there's a carpet being cleaned, but it's about how the person is interacting with them. So I think that's really key. And what I'd also love to know is if anyone here has a HR person in their team that is helping with them with all this stuff as well. So just pop that in the chat box. Cloud computing, people are 100% of the core of every person. That's absolutely right, Emma. For Katie, it's electrical and plumbing is the business she's in. And Talitha says people are definitely number one as we're a service industry. Yeah. Consultants, as a consulting business, we're only ever as good as our last assignment. So I think that's really, really key.
So we've got a few different industries as well, Natasha. We've got insurance, financial services, PR and marketing, electrical and plumbing.
Right.
It's a bit of a cross section.
Excellent. All right, I'll try and pull some examples from what I've seen. And look, there's so much happening in our market at the moment. So I have got some good examples we're going to run through. But because today we've got our limited time, and I am guilty, guys, I always try and jam pack too much into these sessions. So I've really tried to pull back and work out what are the key things I want you to walk away with, you know, in the interest of the generous hour that you're sharing with us. So I'm focusing on interview basics because I think we still have so much to learn in this space. What it costs to get this wrong. There is actually a dollar value to this. So I want you to be thinking about that. I'm actually going to give you a couple of formulae that will help you work that out. And really key, and this is key both to the attraction strategy, but also the retention strategy. What is your employee value proposition, your EVP, and how might you be able to work out what that is? And I have to admit, guys, recruitment is a passion of mine. And my concern is that not enough business owners and managers have invested significant amounts of time and energy in getting a return on their investment, making sure they are a really good interviewer, making sure the candidates are getting a great experience. And that's what we're going to run through today. So I want you to get across that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about here is I believe your employees are your greatest asset. They're also potentially your greatest liability and should be treated as such. So I want you to all think about, and you've all probably had one, who, and could be Mary, could be John, who has been the best performer, your top performer you've ever had in your team? And what made them a top performer? What were some of the behaviors? Was it their client service? Was it that they were just technically brilliant? They understood they could get any stain out of a cup, or that they were able to talk in that PR space, talk someone down who had something horrible happen to them and get them calm and thinking about their reaction. So I want you to think about and pop in the chat box, what are some of the traits that make someone a top performer?
In the Q&A box, sorry.
Q&A box, that's
Yeah.
me getting that wrong. And I suspect that some of you guys, you are the HR person because you might wear multiple hats. So just pop that in the box. Here's what I do know, and I've been speaking to our recruitment team and our recruitment experts a lot, and they say they know, and this is interesting, within the first 10 minutes whether somebody is a high-performing employee or not. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. They're seasoned professionals. They've got really good briefs for the clients. They know their clients exceptionally well, that they can go, yep, that's an Emma client, or that's a, you know, Talitha candidate. So that's really, really important. So I can see here, Kanika has said going above and beyond. They were highly engaged. What I meant by that is emotionally engaged with the success of the business. They want you to succeed just as much as you do. And we're going to talk about that. That is absolutely key. I think that's really, really important. The other thing I want to explore a little bit more is the more A players you have in your team, and I'm actually going to give you some percentages, and I'm sure Roger is going to back me up here, the more productive your team is going to be, and also the more profitable you're going to be. So how can we, in a very tight applicant market, not only attract the best talent that's available, and that talent pool is not going to get any better over the next couple of years, I can tell you, but also have more and more of those A players in our business. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So thank you for those that are jumping in the chat box there. Now, I actually want you to get out your pen and paper for this one. I'm going to draw our recruitment genius model. I'd like you to draw it with me, and I want you to actually self-assess yourself. So I'm going to get to that bit in a minute, but the assessment is green. Absolutely. We are gurus in this space. Orange, we've got some things right, but some of it's not so good. Or red, no, we're not doing any of this very well. So let me talk you through this, and I'd like you to draw this with me as I walk through it. So, and this is the same for both our HR and our recruitment. At the center of everything we do, and what this is really all about, we believe, is building around you of people who treasure, and someone said it before, and I can't remember who it was, so apologies, but someone said that they actually value your business as much as you do, and they are emotionally engaged in your business and your success. That's what we call the treasure dynamic, when your employees treasure your business as much as you do. When you get that, you get three key outcomes. You get people that stay with you for a long time, you get high performance individuals, and you get a high level of engagement. Engagement is a measure of discretionary effort. What will make someone go above and beyond for you, not just because you're paying them for a salary, but because they are so bought into your success. In order to get those things, tenure, performance, and engagement, you need these three key ingredients. You need to assess, well, first of all, you need to attract the best candidates, and a lot of them, so you can pick and choose. You need to assess them and make sure they're great at what they do. And then you actually need to retain them. You need to keep them from your competitors, keep them long-term, give them opportunities to grow and develop. So here's where I want you to start to get involved. I'm going to tell you how you actually do that. We've come up with 9 key accelerators, and people often ask me why we call them accelerators. And the reason we call them the accelerators is because it's the quickest way to get to that. So under that attract strategy, you need to have a great and compelling employee value proposition. And we're going to deep dive into what that is a bit later in the deck. So mark yourself amber, red, or green, depending on whether you've got one of those in your business at the moment. The second thing is, some of the ads we see at the moment, no wonder we're not getting great candidates. You've got to write really great ads. You've got to include your employee value proposition, because let's face it, candidates at the market are spoilt for choice. In most industries, I'm going to go through the industries that are still struggling, but in most industries, people are spoilt for choice. So really write a great ad. What's in it for them? And lastly, attract strategy, you're going to have to headhunt. In the past, you didn't need to. Now we actually do need to headhunt. So I want you to rate yourself amber, green, or red for each of those on how you're performing. The next
Q&A, in the Q&A box.
Yeah, they can do that in the Q&A, or that if they're not comfortable sharing it, I'm very happy for them to do that privately. So under assess, we actually need to do great interviews. I'm going to tell you how you need to be interviewing. Thank you for putting that in. I appreciate you being brave there. So under that, we need to interview them. We need to make sure we know what we're getting, assess them well. The next thing we actually need to do is testing. So actually, can they do their job? And I'll give you an example. We were once working with a digital agency, and they, as part of their recruitment process, gave them a proposal that they would normally send to their clients. And they said, assess this, tell us what we're doing well. And this person candidates actually found mistakes in it that they hadn't deliberately put in there. So I think we need to have a comprehensive assessment process, and assessing them for the skills that they say they've got, or that you think you might be teaching them how to do, is a good thing to do. So I would be doing that. And the last thing here is doing your checks. That's reference checks. I get a lot of people saying, oh, well, they're just going to give me their friend. Well, they will if you let them. When you're going through the interview, you need to say, well, at Employee Matters, who did you report to? Well, I reported to Caroline Ross. Well, hang on, why is Caroline not listed as one of your references? The other thing that's key here, and as our migration is increasing, you have an obligation to check whether everybody who's working for you has right to work in Australia, and it sits with you. The liability and the risk and the fines sit with you if you get it wrong. And it's a great way to double check. Ask anyone who's coming in for an interview to bring their passport in and just check from an ID perspective, is Emma who she says she is? And make sure that she's got the 457 or whatever the visa is that she needs. Site called Vivo. Caroline, I might get Kathleen to look up the Vivo site and just plug that into the chat box, or give that to you so that we can give that to everyone. Under the retain piece, this is a bugbear of mine. We generally don't onboard people properly. Here's a statistic. Your employees are at their greatest risk of leaving you in the first 6 months. And generally the reason for that is that we didn't do an onboarding process. I know somebody who's actually a member of my family who's working in one of the games at the moment that we're doing. No orientation onboarding whatsoever. So she's had to figure it out all of herself. Now, the amount of time that they're paying for that has been wasted because she hasn't been taught the systems she's self-teaching, it's not a good look. So get your onboarding straight. And if you haven't done it recently, review it. Career development. Some people, it's different for everyone in your business, but some people want to know, what's the next step? If I do really well in this role, where can I go from here? Where can I go from there? And please, for all of you who are the business owners in this room, please don't underestimate the value of some people might just want to be mentored by you. They might just want to learn, watch, and grow with you. So that is really, really important. And thanks for throwing that in the Q&A box, guys. And the last one's education and training. I think this is a big missing gap. I don't think we spend enough on training and development of our team. And there's that whole old saying that says, well, what happens if I train them and I leave? And I'm sure Roger's heard this. And I always go, what happens if you don't train them and they actually stay? So I think it's really, really important that people are investing in their people and training them up so that they keep them. Think of it as people want to be putting skills in a bag, that they're picking up skills and developing with you along the way. So for those of you who've been writing down your colours, orange, thank you for your honesty, Emma. That's great. I think this is a great way of looking at recruitment, both from a practical, what do we need to do, but also aspirational, what could we be doing better? So hopefully there'll be some takeaways for you in that. So I said I wanted to look at types of interviews. So I think there are 3 types of interviews: technical, behavioural, and cultural. And I can give you an example. We had a client the other day. They're actually a business, and I kid you not, they are 450 years old. Their business has been going for 450 years old. And they were bringing on a new editor, and they almost lost the ideal candidate. And the reason why they almost lost them was the first interview went really well with 2 people. The second interview was someone who was not interview trained, was not seeing it as, we need to be attracting this person to us. It was all about them, and it was a very old-fashioned style of interview, and they almost lost that candidate. So, it's really important that you've got a structure, you've got a process, you've got a consistency. I even like to see interview guides. So asking the same types of questions. If you are looking, if somebody can put in the chat box just to give me a hint, what's a role that you're regularly going to be recruiting for in your business? So for example, for Joanne, it might be carpet cleaners. So have an interview guide that are the questions you are going to be asking carpet cleaners. Staff might be another one, customer service questions. What are those questions? So back to the 3 types of interviews. Let me tell you what they are. Number 1 is technical. Can they do the job? As in, do they have the programming skills? Or, and here's the thing I'm seeing. Still, when we go to clients, we go, what do you want? And they give us their wish list. And their wish list of what they want for candidates is this long. You actually only want 60%. You want to be looking for the candidate with 70% of what you actually want. And the reason for that is, if they have everything and you haven't got a promotion for them, they're going to get bored and leave. The second reason at the moment is you will not be able to find somebody with all 28 things that you're looking for them for. So you want them to be stretched in the role. You need to invest. And in the market at the moment, I am sorry, they don't exist. There's those perfect candidates don't really exist. And yep, someone's just popped in there. We need to allow the candidate to grow in the role. That's absolutely right. You want to stretch them. The next one, and this is the most technically complex part of an interview and not done well, is behavioral. And what I love about behavioral is I would love you, and I sort of got you to do it a bit at the beginning there, identify what some of the behaviors are of your best performers. Are they biased for action? Are they quick study? Are they client-centered? Are they attention to detail? What are the behaviors for each of the roles that you're looking for at the business, and map those, and then go out and interview for them. So what I mean by that is past behavior indicates future performance. So if I use, Roger, can I bring you on and use you for an example here? If you were bringing on another EOS coach at, like, you were growing your business, what would be one of the behaviors they would need in order to be successful in your view?
The ability to help first without
Yes.
expecting anything in return.
Yes, so that givers get kind of methodology. So what I would be looking for if I was helping Roger recruit for this makeup role is I would be saying, tell me about a time when you've exceeded your clients' expectations. What happened and what did you do? And then I'm actually going to take them to key events, and I'm going to drill down in that meeting that you had with Fred. What did you say? What did you do? What did you think? What did you feel? Can you give me an example? Can you see how, as I'm going down deeper, and if I keep them locked in time, those behaviors, if they actually have them, will actually pop up. They will exist. And then you can start to say, look, I'm fairly confident that this candidate actually has a help first attitude. And so if I pick them up from where they are now and I pop them in Roger's business with that help first attitude, the theory is that they will have the behaviors to be successful in that role. So that's the behavioral side. And it's really important. And often people, they give those high level skimming ones, but they don't go into any level of detail. You know, you really need to anchor them and keep going down, down, down to see whether those behaviors do in fact exist. So the last one, cultural. How many people have we seen that are very senior people that have gone in one door to be the CEO, and within a week they're out and back out? Often the reason for that is that there's not a cultural fit. So people who are not a cultural fit often get spat out of organizations. And I know as a business, the cultural fit of the people who work for me is absolutely key. I want people who are going to fit our culture. So it's critical. And what you need to do is you need to think about it. And a great question to ask is, tell me about your favorite place to work in the past. What was it about that place that made it such a great place to work? And hopefully, that's going to align with what your organization's like. So I think that's really, really important. Because if they're not a cultural fit, it's honestly like turning the Queen Mary around, and they're not going to succeed in that role. So it's really important. You've got the technical. Can they do the skills, say 60, 70%? Have they got the behaviors that are going to enable them to be successful in your role? And are they a cultural fit? Now, what I'd love to ask anyone brave enough to pop it in the Q&A, who here has ever had any formal interview skills training at any time? And I'm just going to quickly take a sip of water. Anyone formally gone and done a course on how to interview?
Getting a few answers in here, and everyone's in the negative so far. No formal interview training, just on the job.
And do you know what? I'm not surprised by that. The issue that we get is we've often learnt from someone else who hadn't formal training and wasn't a great interviewer either. Great, Emma's done, excellent. Emma's done something through Ari. And Emma, I'd love you to further drill down and tell us what you got out of that training. So that behavioral interviewing, I can tell you, I learnt that technique. I hate to say it, it's almost 20 years ago. And I was I thought a skilled interviewer before then, and I still use that technique today. So it's really, really powerful, and it makes it much more effective to recruit successfully in your business. So I think it's really, really important. I think it's a skill you need to learn. Either people tend to Google it, or they tend to learn from someone else who wasn't a particularly good interviewer. So I think it's really important to build that skill. All right, let's touch on some of the basics. I just think, we talk about it's just 1% change. I want to get the basics right in this interview, especially in the current market, because candidate experience is everything, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So you might be surprised to know that at any one time, 30% of people in the market are looking for jobs. That's what we call the active market. 30% are actively looking on Seek and going, "Ooh, I think I might like to change my job today. Let's see what's there." 70% are what we call passive candidates. But the people who are hiring the best at the moment are going after that passive market. I did say, guys, I know some questions are coming through. Sorry, I should have said at the beginning. I am going to try and hold them till the end, just so we can get through all the content, and then we will spend 15 minutes absolutely
I'm
nailing
making
all of the questions.
a diligent note of all of the questions, and we will come to them.
Excellent. Thank you, because I don't want to miss them, because I know that's where people get the most value. But here's the thing, 70% are passive, but guess what? 90% of people will actually take a call. In other words, headhunting. Caroline, I've got this really interesting job. It's in this fabulous company. You wouldn't happen to know anyone? And Caroline goes, "Well, that sounds fabulous. I'd quite like that job." "Oh, would you? Oh, would you like to put in an application?" So it is a technique, it is a skill, but what we're seeing in that is that there's a massive shift in attitude. When I apply for a job through Seek, I don't have the power. When I'm headhunted, there is a power dynamic shift. So what we're seeing from candidates, and I get this from the front line every day from our recruitment team, is a couple of things. They are chasing, and I know as business owners, and I'm one of them too, they are chasing every single dollar that they can get at the moment. With the cost of living that's going on at the moment, it used to be flexibility, number one. It has shifted in the last little bit because everyone's mortgages have gone up, all their rent has gone up, and so on. They are looking for hybrid work, fully remote in some cases. They want flexibility. They want super quick responses. If you are snoozing in this recruitment process, you are losing. You need to be saying to Caroline in this instance, "Hey, Caroline, we've got your application. We'd love to do a phone screen. We're going to do that Wednesday. If you're successful, we'll be doing first interviews on Thursday or Friday this week. We'll be doing final interviews the week after. You'll have a decision by the end of next week." It should be a 2-week process. Regardless, don't go to market unless you're ready to hire. Okay.
Yeah, I think once you've made the commitment to place the ad, you've got to set that time aside because otherwise you lose the candidates, and it's awful.
It's a great point, Caroline. What we do with our clients is we actually block out time physically in their diary and say, right, we want this time blocked, and we'll give it back to you if we don't have somebody for you to interview, but I want that time, because if we don't move, somebody else will. The other thing is job descriptions. People aren't spending enough time with their job descriptions. Make sure they're accurate, because also you cannot, if you don't have an accurate job description, you're not going to be able to know what you should be paying people if they're award employees. Make sure it's super easy to apply. Guys, they all want to be able to apply on this phone now. So make sure that your ads and your recruitment process can be managed through a mobile phone. You need to be very conscious of your conscious and your unconscious bias. We've had a couple of situations lately where we've had some clients that have been acting in a race discrimination way, which we've had to handle very sensitively. You cannot discriminate on the grounds of race, sex, religion, you name it. It's a whole lot of things, and you need to be very careful you don't document anything that would make anyone believe that they have been treated anything other. Let's give you a personal example. We have a lady in our team, Paola Livani Brooks. Paola is a super switched on senior HR practitioner. Guess what? When she came back to Australia, she has Italian background, no accent whatsoever, Aussie as. When she came back to Australia and she started applying for roles with that name, she didn't get any interviews. She changed it to Paula Brooks, and her interview numbers went through the roof. So it does exist. Those organizations that do blank names for their recruitment also tend to have more success. So we need to think about that. Keep moving fast. People need to get an outcome. And I wanted to just quickly share something called talent pooling. I'm conscious of our time, but we're going okay. So talent pooling is a core. I'm all about let's apply what made sense and worked, and they've spent bucket loads of money on it in the corporate world, and apply it in a way that makes commercial sense to small to medium businesses. And I just need to change my slide. Sorry, guys. So talent pooling. So I used to work for an insurance business. One of their most valuable roles was an agri-banker role. It was worth 75 grand a year, not the CEO role. Their most valuable role in that business was an agri-banker. It took them on average 100 days to replace anyone who resigned in that role. Can you imagine what it's costing that business to have that role vacant for 100 days? So they started talent pooling, and talent pooling is essentially picking the roles in your business where you're regularly going to be hiring those. So it might be client facing people, someone said, or it might be carpet cleaners or whatever. What they did was they took candidates all the way through the recruitment process, being very honest, we're not actually ready to hire. We're looking to build talent pools. And then when we're ready to hire, we'll come out. And it literally, they took them all the way up to sign an offer. That reduced their time from 100 days to fill a role down to 2 weeks. Massive cost saving. So we just did a mapping exercise, this is probably back end of last year, for an environmental consultant. They wanted people, because they're growing so rapidly, environmental scientists with say 3 to 5 years. So we went in LinkedIn and mapped the market. Now they're hard to differentiate at that age. You know, they've not had a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things. But they now know who all the people with that level of experience are. So as they're growing, they can go in and pick up people as they need to. So I think that's really, it's a great technique for businesses where you're wanting to, there is a type of person you're going to be recruiting again and again. Let's assume, for example, you have 15 or 20 carpet cleaners, and you know you're going to lose 3 a year because that's just average attrition rates. But you want to grow your business, so you're going to have to replace the 3, plus you're going to need to find another 5. Talent pooling might be a great way where you can start to map the market and shorten that cycle. Sorry to pick on you there, Joanne, but I just know that that's one of the things that you're probably recruiting. So it was an easy example for me to pick. So here's another one about getting the basics right. I want to share with you one of the things we're starting to see in the market, not so much with our clients, but it is happening a lot. We hire people, as a person is offered a job, there's 4 weeks till they start that job. And we get a phone call on the Friday afternoon before the Monday they start saying, sorry, I've actually taken another role. Well, you could have told us that 4 weeks ago, because we could have started recruiting again, because you're back to square one. What's happening is people are not paying attention to these people while they're in that interim phase of from the acceptance to start. So couple of quick suggestions here. Once they've accepted the role, send them a bottle of wine or a bottle of bubbles or a bunch of flowers to say, we are so excited that you've decided to join us. Get them excited about the start date. Create a timeline or a new starter checklist. Here's some things that you might want to think about before you start. There's a great tool that Elmo does, which is an onboarding tool, which it'll actually, you can set it up in advance, and it might say, here's the best place to get coffee. You know, here's where everyone goes coffee. Oh, and it has the ability to say, oh, we've worked out your commute time when you need to come into the office is an hour. Here's somewhere you can park, or you can catch public transport. So you can actually get them set up and getting excited before they start. The other thing is walk them around the business and get them to meet the team. And have a morning tea to say, welcome, Caroline. We're so thrilled you started. We decided to have cake and tea. Everyone loves some cake and tea. So get really excited. Very powerful. If you're the boss, ringing up on the Thursday or the Friday before they start to say, hey, Caroline, or hey, Emma, I understand that you're starting in our customer service team on Monday. I just wanted to let you know the team have told me wonderful things about you. We are super excited about you joining us. We've got your desk ready. Is there anything you need from us before we get started on Monday? Can you imagine the impact that would have on someone junior in business, that the managing director or someone has taken 5 minutes out of their day to call them? It's a really simple thing, but I think it can be very powerful. So have a think about what you could be doing better in getting that basics right. All right, I wanted to share with you we didn't have time to do our recruitment best managed process. But here's the thing: phone screen, first interview, second interview, potentially, well, obviously checking visas and so on, reference checking. The other thing you might want to do is some skills testing. The other thing is psychometrics. So many of you will be familiar with DISC or Myers-Briggs. I find them a little narrow. The one that we use is Harrison's. No surprises for anyone on this call. I quite like doing this, unless you guessed otherwise. Give me a microphone and an audience, I'm in heaven. Give me an Excel spreadsheet. Caroline knows attention to detail is not my thing. I need somebody else. That's why I have Kathleen to make sure I'm doing what I should be doing when I should be doing it. If you did Harrison's assessment on me, that's what you would find out about me. Doesn't mean I can't do Excel spreadsheets. It just means you might need to check it, or you're not going to get the best Natasha Hawker from burying me in spreadsheets for the day. You get the best Natasha Hawker when I'm out doing what I'm doing now. But the other advantage of Harrison's is for those of you who have hybrid teams, you can also test somebody's ability or suitability to work from home, because not everyone can do it. And I have to, full disclosure here, I've run a remote business since I started in 2011. So we've been doing this hybrid thing and remote thing for a long time. But Harrison's will say, Natasha is a 97% fit for being a HR manager. I'm not, by the way. And here are all the traits that are mandatory to be a great HR manager. Here are the nice to have, and here are, least desirable. So what you find out is over time, it takes you ages to work that out, straight away. So it's that psychometric testing. So I wanted to share with you, we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of businesses, and this is what we know. Typically, your employees are going to fall into one of these categories. Feel free to draw this. Feel free to put names in boxes if you want to. Let me talk you through this. We have two axes. On the y-axis to the sky, we've got capability. How good are they at doing their job? On the x-axis, we've got their engagement, their measuring, their discretionary effort, their morale. So the first box we come across is what we call prisoners. Have we got anyone here in the allied health space? Did you see anyone in psychology or speeches or anything like that?
No, I
my
didn't.
Speeches, my allied health clients don't like these labels. Work with me if you don't like the labels, you'll get it. It's just what they're called, but we can call them A, B, and players, and Rogers may have shared something similar to you. But this prisoner category, low levels of engagement, low levels of capability. These guys are often whinging. They're not happy. You often have high levels of attrition in this area. Then we've got your conscripts. Your conscripts are actually quite good at their job, but they've got low levels of engagement. They're not on the bus with you. I remember somebody said earlier, they're with you in the team. Conscripts are what we call cleverly antagonistic. They often show up in organizations. We see them as your number one salesperson, for example, but they're the office bully. And we keep them because they're the number one salesperson, but they do a lot of damage. This level here is your trainees, super keen and super green. What we know with your trainees is they actually need to be mentored up into your volunteer category. Volunteers, high levels of engagement, high levels of capability. Now, I wanted to ask you and quickly pop in the chat box, what percentage of your workforce do you think need to be in that volunteer category to achieve your business strategy? So quickly do that while I grab a drink.
We're getting some great feedback and questions in the Q&A box as well, Tash.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to need to push on because I'm going to run out of time otherwise. There's one last category here, which is your superstar. Your superstar is if I walked into any one of your businesses, Kara's business, for example, and I said, who's the rock star? Everyone would go, it's Roger. Roger's the rock star in the business. They are that top 5%. Everybody in the business pretty much knows who they are. So I would love you to map your team against that. Here's the thing though, guys, if you've got prisoners and conscripts, and I will tell you what the result is, volunteers, you need 80 to 90% of your business. So I can see Roger's got it. Kanika has got it as well. 80 to 90% of your employees should be in that volunteer category. Hey guys, if you've got conscripts and prisoners, here's a scary stat. It's costing you 34% of their salary. I'm making the maths easy. If you pay them 100 grand a year, it's costing you 34,000 to have these people. You need to move them into volunteers or out of the organization. So let's keep moving on. I wanted to talk quickly about getting ROI on your employee spend. I've developed a scorecard to do this, but that's one of those 34% to have disengaged or not engaged employees. Here's another one. It costs you between 50% and 150% on top of base salary every time you go to market. So if you've got that churn where you've got attrition, you are just blowing money out the window. So it's really important. The other thing I wanted you to think about is this one. This is what we call lost productivity. So I think we've all been guilty of it, where we go, well, we haven't got anyone doing the receptionist role. We normally pay her 55 grand a year. So, hey, we're saving ourselves 55 grand. There's a different way to think about it. If there's not somebody in a role that's key, then it's actually costing you money. So the way we work that out, and I've just used the Australian average salary at the moment, which is 68K a year divided by 248 working days, is 45 days, basically, if that role's vacant for 45 days, it's costing you, or 9 weeks, it's costing you $12,375. If you've got 4 roles that are vacant for that length of time, it's costing you $50,000. So that's because they're not productive and everyone else is having to carry their weight during the week as well. So you risk burnout in that phase. So I wanted you to start to think, and it will vary for you, but I want you to start to think about what are the behaviors, and they can be different based on the role. Obviously, what you want from your salesperson in terms of behaviors compared to your account managers is quite different. But I think it would be really powerful for you if you started to identify not only the technical skills, but the behaviors that make people successful, and then recruit for those behaviors. You're going to have a much stickier, more successful individual. So think about things like bias for action, client focused, attention to detail, creative, add copy with your PR people. It's their network, isn't it? In the PR field, they need to be able to pick up the phone to the head producer at Channel 10 and say, hey, I've got the guest for you, if that's where your business is focused. So I just wanted to go into EVP, and then we've on the last 2 slides before we go to questions. So I wanted to touch on retention today. We've spent a lot of time on recruitment, but this is a great that I'm going to go through with you quickly here, which is called EVP, Employee Value Proposition. What's in it for me as the candidate to work for you? And it's a great attraction strategy. It's also a great retention strategy. So I've also going to get Caroline to pop in the chat box some videos from Everyday Independence. It's in the notes, Caroline, to watch a video where people are using videos to attract candidates. It's a great way to do it. But I am not seeing employee value proposition being done well, and it's critical, especially in the current market, to attracting talent. It elevates your employment brand. Who's even thinking about their employment brand? Often we're just thinking about the brand of the business, but our employment brand needs to be nurtured and managed as well. It reduces your recruitment costs, and it decreases your time to go to market and hire the best people. But big part of this here is you want your hiring managers, whoever's doing the hiring in your business, to sell the job, not oversell it. It needs to be accurate. If you tell them that it's wonderful working here and it's not wonderful working here, they're going to leave. But what you want to do is you want your hiring managers to be able to articulate the employee value proposition. Now, what is it? I hear you all say it's compensation, it's benefits, it's career, it's work environment, and it's culture. I'm going to really quickly share a couple of things. Compensation might be additional superannuation payments, or it might be profit share. Benefits could be access to childcare or additional paid leave. I can give you an example from 2018, and this is a big end of town example, but I just want you thinking more creatively about what benefits, and they don't all have to cost money. But Medibank went to market in 2018 and said, right, we are doing 14 weeks of paid parental leave, whether you're the second or the primary caregiver, and you can do that together. Can you imagine how many people went and joined that organization who were top performers because of that benefit? The other one is around career. I talk about something called dual mentoring, mentoring buddies up from someone who's senior in the business with someone who's more junior in the business for mutual benefit. And the other thing I think is just generally developing your team members so that they are more skilled to do their roles that they need now, but also what roles you're going to need or what skills you're going to need from in the future. Work environment, this is about the physical workspace. Place dictates performance. Have you got an environment that is going to encourage collaboration, makes people feel warm and fuzzy when they come to work for you because it's a nice place to work? Or it might be access, if you're in the tech space, it might be access to really cool tech. And the last one's culture, team culture. This is essentially the way we behave around here. I often talk about when I go into an organization, I have these antenna and I can generally pick stuff up really quickly, and I'll meet with a client and I go, any chance this is going on here? And they go, how did you know that? And I said, it's the HR antenna. I can feel it. It's the look, smell and feel of the place. And it can be the way, culture can be the way you treat your team. We surprised our team last year. We had our best financial year ever. They thought they were going on a treasure hunt through the city. And then we surprised them with a large catamaran that turned up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and everyone walked on board and was given a glass of champagne, and we cruised around the harbour for 4 hours for wine, great food, sunshine, lots of laughter. Caroline organised that day. It was incredibly memorable for our team. And, you know, I had somebody say to me, I'm staying with you because this is brilliant. I love this stuff. So that is EVP. How you find out about it is very clearly, you need to ask your team that work for you now, do a survey and then massage that out. I'm simplifying it, but essentially it exists now, but then you could build onto that. All right, last one, stay interviews. They must be actioned. This is talking to people. We talk about interviews when you start, interviews when you leave. What about the stay interviews? What would make Emma stay with me and work with me for another couple of years? What would make Joanne work with me for another couple of years? It's going to be different for everybody, and it will change over time. Maybe Joanne wants more flexibility. Emma is looking for her next career a role. Maybe Roger's got an elderly parent that he's got to deal with and he might need a bit more flex to start and finish times. It's different for everyone, but simply just asking that question, it might be a really simple question that gets someone to stay with you, because going somewhere else, they're not guaranteed of that. So I am going to pause there. There is a QR code here that we have done a checklist for everyone here. You can download it and actually self-assess yourself against it. And I'm going to, while you're doing that, I won't go to the Q&A slide because in case people want to take that, self-assessment. But Caroline, can you help me with the questions so we can?
We can't see the QR code just yet, Natasha.
That might help if I change my slide.
Are you ready to start?
Let's go.
Hearing some questions. We've got a really good selection. One of the questions I took the liberty of answering myself, some of the research coming out is that adverts need to be less than 200 words. I struggled to get all we need to say into less than 200 words. Any advice on this?
Great question. I think our span of attention has massively reduced to a tweet. I actually think a point of difference would be a really short, sharp ad that hooks them in to want to find out more. And you can do the more later and even get creative. I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, you know, maybe use AI, like depending on what your business is, you might want to use an avatar to be a video ad about what it's like to work here. So get creative about it. You need to stand out from your competition, trial it, test and measure. It might work for you because people are time poor and they're like, oh my God, I've got to read through one of those wordy long ads that doesn't tell me anything.
Also, 70% of candidates or more are looking at these job ads on their mobile devices. So you don't want anything where you've got to scroll too much, and it's different from looking at it on a computer screen. So I had a question from Emma. We're also worried about adding a testing stage due to potential loss of candidates.
Here's my thing. If you move it quickly through the process, it's better to test and know what you're getting than not test and get a dud. And I think what I would suggest is say it all up front. And it's how you position it. So who was that question from, Caroline?
Emma.
Emma. So Emma, I'd be saying to them, we have really high standards for the level of employees that we let into that place. What has that already told me? I'm not going to be dealing with deadwood and duds. So I'm already more interested because it's a high performing environment. We have really high standards for the level of expertise that our people have. So we have a very thorough recruitment process. It will maybe take a little bit longer, and this part is part of it. And that's how we can make sure that you absolutely have the skills that we need and that will help make you successful in this environment. That's how I position that.
Okay. Now Talitha has asked, Emma again. Do you have any tips and tricks on how to influence hiring managers away from being focused on finding their unicorn?
I think the tip is they're not going to find anyone. So if they want to keep doing that extra person's job, and wait for the unicorn, they can do that. At the moment, there is you just have to be flexible out there. You know, it's one of those things, it's like hire for attitude, train. You know, you may need to take a little bit more investment in that training aspect and that time in that training aspect, but if you've got the right attitude, train them up. I think that the reality is that that role will be vacant for a very long time if they keep waiting for the unicorn.
Okay.
And I think it's maybe give them some statistics on it. And look, we know even with headhunting that you can't get perfect candidates, even with that at the moment. So it's tough out there.
Okay, I have a question from Talitha. Is there a best practice order for the types of interviews? We tend to screen cultural fit initially before even progressing to an interview, and then swing back to cultural fit at the end.
So the first part of the question was, is there a guide?
Is there a best practice order for types of interviews?
Yeah, we've got a guide, which is all the interview questions, which is in the book, and I'm happy to send it on to people afterwards if they want that. We might be able to add that in that Google site, Caroline. The I think it's really important. I think the phone screen is, can they communicate over the phone? Is their salary within the range? All of that sort of stuff. Do I feel engaged? But give them a chance. Like if I ring Caroline out of the blue and she's out having lunch, she's not going to give me her best performance over a phone screen. So you want to make sure that that time is teed up.
Okay. Kanika, how do you create and attract trust back in the candidate for an industry that has been massively affected by COVID and skilled candidates have been burnt in the past, such as with their redundancies, etc.?
Trust begets trust, and it is a long way back. I'd come back to differentiating yourself. One of the key things I think is really important, and everyone in this call could do it, is do some videos. People are very attracted to watching a video, a short video. You can get a guy, I can recommend some people to come in. What's it like working or Roger? And you might interview Caroline and say, Caroline, why do you like working for Roger? And Caroline tells you from her perspective, and then people recognize in Caroline that she's a bit like them, and therefore they might like to work there. And she can talk about that trust factor. And I think it's like all these things, call out the elephant in the room. I'd come back to your point of difference, be really upfront and put it out there. I know that our industry has been smashed. Trust is at an all-time low. We are different. Here's why we're different. And if that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, give us a call.
I had a great comment from Emma on onboarding when you were talking about that. So she said pre-COVID, when she worked in an office with a specific desk assigned to each person, we used to take a picture of the person's exact desk that they would have when they started and give a video to their desk neighbours, and it was very well received. And also sending a team video to them to welcome them and let them know who'll be virtually around on day one is the virtual equivalent.
That's great. Great suggestion. Thank you for sharing that.
And then the last question I have in these questions that have been provided in advance, Roger has said, is there another term for EVP that sounds a bit less corporate-y? He suggested,
you know what I do it?
Success proposition.
Yeah, that, or what's in it for me, or what's in it for the candidate.
Me? Yeah. Okay.
What's in it for me?
So that's all the questions I have so far. Everybody
Excellent.
is able to turn on their mics if they want to.
Does anyone want to
Ask at a
jump in
time.
and ask us a live question?
I'd like to.
Go for it.
Guys, thanks for your time today. It's awesome to see your engagement. Well done. I hope those answers are also providing the value for you. My question is, and this is a question I get a lot, Natasha, in the last 90, maybe 180 days of sessions, and that is, what is your best recruitment tip?
Great question.
And I always give them the same answer, Natasha. It's really
And what
easy
is
for me.
that?
I'm like, call Natasha.
Yeah, look, I like that. I like that. Look, for me, at the moment, the best recruitment tip for me would be have a really compelling employee value proposition. You do need to dig deeper because it's a point of difference. And if you're going to market and you and your hiring managers and it's infiltrated all the way through your ads, through the candidate experience is consistent, you're not just competing on dollars. You're competing on, I know where my career could go. I know what the benefits are. You know, for example, we had a client the other day, Roger, that told us after the event, they actually provide a hot lunch every day. Now, in these times where times are tight, that could be saving someone 10, 15, 20 a day in food by having lunches provided, but they never told us about it. That needs to form part of that employee value proposition. So that would be my key thing at the moment. It varies over time, but for now, point of difference, what's in it for me as the candidate?
Yeah, thanks. I've learned a lot about the EVP sort of unpack today, and that's been really useful. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Right, guys. Well, look, we have smashed through a hell of a lot of content here. I hope this has been incredibly valuable. The aim for me and Roger was that this might just spark something that might make you think about recruitment differently. As I said at the beginning, if you do it the way you've always done it, you're already lost the race at the moment. This is something you need to get better at. And there's a QR code there for you to test yourself. There is also, if anyone wanted to talk to us further or ask us other questions, you can jump in and get a free discovery session if you'd like to talk about recruitment or HR. Other than that, do that checklist. There's a whole lot of other resources on that site. The other thing that I just want to jump on my bandwagon for, and it's something we're going to be talking about in our next session, Roger, which I think it's in a couple of weeks. Guys, I don't know whether you're all aware of it, but there has the Albanese government has a massive legislation agenda, employee relations legislation agenda coming through. So there are things like domestic and family violence leave. Everyone will go on the call. Yeah, I've heard about that. It's now 10 days paid, but it's the way you have to roll that out in your business. So for example, if Caroline comes to me to ask me for domestic and family violence leave and she reports into Emma, I cannot tell Emma that Caroline is on domestic and family violence leave. It cannot be on her pay slip. Respect at work. You guys have all got to be managing respect at work much more seriously now. In the past, it was just a bit of training and a policy. Pay secrecy, you've got to remove that pay secrecy clause. So we are going to be digging down on what the changes are in employment legislation. And unfortunately, guys, it's going to all be impacting you. Some of the things have already meant to have happened. So you may be in breach already. So we're going to do a deep dive on that next time. So on that note, with 1 minute to spare, Roger, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely to meet you all. Thank you for your interaction. I hope that's been valuable. And do reach out, join us, connect with us on social media. We send a lot of videos, and Caroline's going to say something that I've forgotten.
We've got our books.
Oh, books. Who's getting the books? Well done,
Well,
Caroline.
it's actually hard to choose. The questions have been amazing, but
actually, you're doing the most interactive.
Yes,
Roger's doing the best question.
Yeah, no, I know, but there were a lot of questions and from different people. I think probably Emma.
Most interactive, Emma.
Most interactive.
If you can send us your postal address, I'll send you out a signed copy of the book. And Roger, do you have a best question?
Best question. Thank you. It was mine. No, just kidding. Gonna go with Kanika.
Okay, great. Well, if you could send me your address, we'll get a copy of those books in the post to you today. Thanks, guys. Sorry we've gone minute over. It has been our pleasure. My name's Natasha Hawker, and remember, your employees really do matter. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.